This is 10.6 part 2, and I'm going to start with the word problem, which you'll see on page 672, example 3. Reading the problem. For the period 1971 to 2001, so 1971 to 2001, the number of films produced in the world, in other words, Y films, equals 10x squared minus 94x plus 3900. And they tell you this is where x is the years since 1971. In other words, in year 0, these disappear, right? And the number of films is 3,900 in that first year, and that year 0 is 1971. Their question is, in what year were 4,200 films produced? In other words, in what year was this Y equal to 4,200? Well, the first thing I need to do is just substitute in 4,200, and I'm going to do that right down here on the left. So 4,200, I'm subbing in for Y, equals 10x squared minus 94x plus 3,900. I'm doing this because then when I solve for x, I will know how far from 1971, how far was that year from, if I get a year of 1 or 2 or 3, I will know what year 4,200 films were produced. All right, my first job is to subtract 4,200 from both sides. And when I do that, I'm going to get my equation next to 0 equal to 0, 10x squared minus 94x minus 300. And that lets me set my A, B, and C values. A equals 10, B equals negative 94, and C equals negative 300. I'm going to use those values to plug into my quadratic equation. And my quadratic equation is going to start again with the formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So there's my quadratic formula, and I'm going to put a, b, and c where they belong. X equals negative b, negative 94, plus or minus the square root of negative 94 squared minus 4 times A is 10, and C is negative 300. Almost off the page, but not quite. Over 2, and A is 10. All right. I now have all the numbers in, and I just need to simplify. X equals 94, because negative is positive, plus or minus the square root of 94 squared. Well, I'm certainly not doing that in my head. So 94 squared is 8836 minus 4 times A, which was 10, times C, which is negative 300. And actually, I'm going to go back and say I'm going to put in a negative 4 times positive 10 times negative 300. And I end up with a positive 12,000. Over 2a, which means over 20. Why am I doing this on my calculator? Because I really don't want to take the chance of making a mistake, and it's just so much detail that it's easy to do. X equals 94 plus or minus, well, 12,000 plus 8836 gives me square root of 20,836 over 20. The square root of 20,836. So, because I'm going to have two answers here, and I'm going to write them here. The first one, 94 plus the square root of 20,836 over 20. And over here, x equals 94 minus the square root of 20,836 over 20. I'm going to have two possible answers. So my first answer, the square root of 20,836 is 144.34 plus 94 divided by 20. I get 11.91, which, since we're talking of years, is about 12 years. So that's my first answer. My second answer is similar, but I'm going to start here with 94 minus the square root of 20,836 divide by 20, and I get negative 2.51, which the book seems to round to negative 3. Negative 3 years does not make sense, and therefore 12 years has to be the answer. Now we're not quite done, because we need to say, they said in what year, and we can't just answer x equals 12. So if x equals 12 since 1971, 1971 plus 12 is 1983, and that is the year where 4,200 films were produced. All right, that's the first half of 10.6 part 2. I'm going to go on in the next slide and give you example 4 and sort of a summary to make decisions for solving quadratic functions.